It's just Bruce, he don't bite. Hello.
Hello, and welcome to our channel. Let's talk about the 2022 movie The Menu, shall we?
Hey folks, welcome back to my channel once again. It's a Friday night, and I got something different for you tonight. I don't like doing the same thing every time. As you can see in the title, we're going to review the movie The Menu. The Menu. The Menu came out in 2022, and I never got to see it until recently. And I was thinking, I retired from my chef job in October. In case you're wondering why I'm wearing a chef coat tonight, it's to honor the movie, I guess. And, you know, a little reminiscing, I suppose. This year would have been 40 years. Oh, it is 40 years. 40 years since I've been cooking. I can't say I've been a chef for 40 years. I mean, you don't start out just being a chef. As far as how long I've actually been a chef, oh, it's hard to say. Because just frying burgers or something doesn't make you a chef. If you work at McDonald's and you're following a corporate recipe, that's not a chef, that's a cook. No disrespect intended, it's hard work, and it's a start. And I did all that stuff. But anyway, when I was working at my last job, I retired in October. It just became too much for me. At least I thought so. And I was having some physical problems and money problems too. So I just decided I didn't want to do it anymore. So I started doing other things. With all that said, The Menu. Waitress that I used to work with, told me about this movie. She was one of the few people in the kitchen that would call me chef, and I really appreciated that because it is a sign of respect. When I asked her, I said, where'd you learn? Because she was a terrible waitress, I'm sorry. She doesn't work here anymore, so it doesn't matter. But she was a terrible waitress. But she kept calling me chef, and I did thank her for that. I said, I appreciate the respect. I said, how'd you learn that? And she said, from this movie, The Menu, and I never heard of it. And people that know me know I love movies. Well, this one slipped past me. And it's, as you can see, here's the, I always get that wrong. Here's the DVD cover, whatever you want to call it. But anyway, it's a story about a chef, of course, and a crowd that he brings in on a... Oh, there will be spoilers in this, I should tell you. This is not a no spoiler. I know when I did Wolverine, I did my best not to have spoilers. But this one, I'm going to try to get into it like a Gen X guy who just likes movies. I'm not going to crawl up it but with a microscope. But there are some things I want to talk about. So we're going to get started with that right now. The movie starts out showing this couple, Tyler and Margot, waiting for a boat to go to an island and have an exclusive dinner. And Nicholas Hoult played Tyler, and Margot was played by Anna Taylor-Joy. Anna Taylor-Joy. Oh, she's so pretty. But anyway, they're sitting there talking, and you can tell right away he's kind of nerdy, and you can tell he's kind of pretentious. He's telling her not to smoke because it's going to ruin her palate for the dinner, and he's a foodie. And if you don't know what a foodie is basically a normal person that just likes to be a know-it-all about food. They study how stuff's done, and they're very pretentious, and they just have something to say about everything, and they need to shut up because they don't know what the hell they're doing. Yeah, I don't like foodies. So they get on the boat, and they're waiting for other characters to arrive, and this is when they're introducing all the characters. Margot notices this gentleman right here, and she recognizes him. We don't know why yet, but she recognizes him, but she tried to avoid him, so we're wondering, okay, what's up with that? And that's his wife there, played by Judith Light. I don't remember what the guy's name was. I don't know all the actors in this, but I know the ones that I know, and that's what we'll talk about. So they decide, you could tell they're a little snobbish, I guess you could say. And there's a tour that they're supposed to go on. Well, they've been there before, so they refused the tour. They just wanted to go directly to the restaurant and wait. And that's all you see at the beginning there. The next couple you see, Tyler makes a big deal about the girl. She's supposed to be a big food critic, and she can make or break chefs. And he's like, oh, this is going to get interesting. But you could tell just by her arrogance walking off the boat that she's just going to be a big pain in the butt. The next character you see, and he was with the girl too, but I don't have a picture of that, is all they gave him credit for in the movie was movie star. They didn't really say his name in the credits. They did say his name in the middle of the movie, but I forget what it was. I want to say like Ortiz or something like that. But it was played by John, this is hard to say, John Leguizamo. You've probably seen him in other movies. Anyway, he basically played an actor who really kind of, well, in the movie, the actor just kind of was terrible, and he does crappy B movies that no one likes, but he wants to be known, and he wants to pretend like he knows everybody, but he doesn't. And that's pretty obvious right off the bat. He's trying to act like he's important, but he's not. And then you see a group of three, like, businessmen type frat boys. You could tell they're drunk. They're just there to have a good time and show off and say they did it. In fact, Tyler even mentioned something. I called them power tasters, and are basically wasting a restaurant's time. All these guests are greeted after they got off the boat. They ride the boat in, a little small talk here and there. They had a little pretentious little meal for the boat. When they got off the boat, they meet this lady here. Her name is Elsa, and she's the maitre d'. She's the one guiding everybody to where they're supposed to be. And she played a pretty good character. I mean, she's very serious. Very, very serious. Not pretentious, just very, very 100% serious. Like, if you told a joke, I don't think she'd laugh. And she was a main part of the movie. So now everybody's on the island, and Elsa takes them on their little tour, except for the rich couple, we're going to call them, and they just went to the restaurant and waited. And they went around, they showed the living quarters of where the chefs live. It's like a barracks. It's almost like a cult-like atmosphere. They all sleep together, and they do everything together. And then a couple other things they look at, nothing super duper important, of course. Tyler can't resist, making comments because he thinks he knows everything. And Elsa keeps giving him dirty looks, which was kind of funny. For a horror movie, there was a lot of funniness in this, I found. So they get back to the restaurant, and that's whenever we got to meet Chef Julian Slowik, played by Ralph Fiennes. I think that's how you say his last name. But all I saw was Voldemort. As soon as he walked in, I'm like, that's Voldemort, that's Voldemort. So immediately I thought he's got to be a bad guy. He's got to be a bad guy. Still don't know what the movie was about. I was just told I was supposed to watch it. I'm like, oh, he's got to be a bad guy. Voldemort's in this movie. All right. And then shortly after that, we see him giving this old lady some wine, and you can tell she's pretty tipsy as it is. Turns out that was his mother, and that comes into play later on in the movie. Now, basically, the whole movie is between Margot Mills and Chef Slowik. It's basically, best I can tell, it's from her point of view, what was going on. We're going to hear about all the personality traits of the characters that I just went over, trying to make it shorter. So they sit down, they have their first course. Chef comes out, claps his hands, and announces the food. And the first course was, just nothing, just food. It was not a big deal. And they served it, but as these courses keep going along, we get to, the plot unfolds, and we get to figure out what's going on with these characters. We already figured out Tyler was a rich, snobby, foodie kid, know-it-all, and he'd already gone up to one of the other chefs and had to point out, oh, did you make that with a Paco jet? And the chef was a little bit annoyed, you could tell, because chefs hate foodies, let's put it that way. He answered him politely. Just Tyler had to let him know, oh, well, I know that, I know something. Idiot. Well, the chef politely dismissed him and told him to take a seat, which I love the passive aggressiveness in that scene. So he sat back down and he's taking pictures of his food whenever they had already told him not to take pictures of his food. So, obviously the rules don't apply to little rich kid Tyler. And then you find out the rich couple, repeat customers, and they were just there to spend money. They had nothing better to do. They'd been there like 11 times. And you could tell they were just there to be there. They were just there to be there. They didn't appreciate the experience. That comes into play later, too. And then the critic and her little sidekick, I think his name was Feldman, all they were doing was sitting there nitpicking every little teeny tiny thing. You're not there. You weren't invited there to be a critic. You're invited there just to have an experience. And she's totally destroying. This is why chefs hate food critics. Here's your food. Eat it, enjoy it. If you like it, that's awesome. I want to hear you like it. If you don't like it, I don't mind hearing why. But if you're going to sit there and say, oh, well, there's too many grains of pepper on there, or and that's just an example. I could go real deep into that, but that would take a whole other video. She was annoying from the start and has the little glasses down over her nose. And well, let me see you cook something better. As we found out, Margot actually wasn't even supposed to be there. Tyler originally had a date, and I guess they broke up or something, so he brought Margot Mills instead. And Elsa was not happy about that. She kept referring to that, saying, well, you're going to sit in her spot since she's not here. And you can tell a little bit of passive aggressiveness on that. Didn't really tell much about Margot Mills at first, though. She was just observing. You could tell she didn't quite belong, though. Later on, those businessmen that we were talking about, the frat boys, that's what I call them. I don't think they were really frat boys, but they sure did act like it. They tried to pull rank on Elsa whenever they didn't get bread. They wanted bread, and she flat out said no. And they tried to pull rank because their boss, I guess, owns the restaurant. And she's like, no, because it wasn't part of the menu. I thought that was funny. But back to Chef Julian Sloan. his character was supposed to be the best of the best. I mean, there was nobody better than him. He worked his way up from flipping burgers up to this like super high class top dollar chef who had the right to charge $1,200, I think it was, for their dinner they had to pay because he was that good. And I respect that. I've never been that good of a chef. I don't think I ever will be, especially with the years I have left. But if somebody like that actually existed, you got to kind of admire them. My style of cooking isn't quite as pretentious, but I get it. Everybody has their passion, especially chefs. We all cook our own way. He went over, above, and up there. The very first course, though, was kind of interesting. It was called the Island, and it was made from rocks and flowers and stuff from the actual island. And it had scallops on it and some other food that he had cooked. He wanted to make it look like a little piece of the island so people would appreciate where the food comes from. I totally get that concept. I don't think half the people there did because they just sat there and bitched about it. And as the movie progresses, you find out the failed actor played by John Leguizamo. No, I guess you can't write it how to spell it. Maybe you can. Leguizamo? Is that right? Anyway, as they develop his character, you just kind of find out he's just kind of an idiot, a name dropper. He tries to be more important than he actually is. He's a stooge. So at this point, you pretty much get a basic idea of what the characters are, who they are, just basically where they're from, and what kind of people they are. And it's kind of interesting. It's a very mixed, but believable group. It's very believable that mixture of people would be in there. So they didn't throw a bunch of woke nonsense in there, which I appreciate. If that offends you, I'm sorry, but this is my opinion. Second course comes along, and it was tacos. The chef chose to tell a story about Taco Tuesday when he was a kid and how his parents were fighting, and he basically stabbed his father in the thigh with a pair of kitchen shears. And sure enough, when they served the taco tortillas and the taco meat was actually a chicken thigh with a pair of scissors sticking up out of it to symbolize his story and his memory. It was called the memory, I think, too. But anyway, as each table looked at the tortillas, they're seeing pictures. They used a laser printer to print on these tortillas different pictures. And Tyler looked at his pictures and he saw pictures of himself taking pictures of the food, which he was told not to do it. And then it went to the businessmen. The businessmen saw some proof that they were stealing money. Like I said, there's spoilers if you didn't get it in the beginning. It's tough. The movie's 2 years old anyway. Let me think, what else was it? The older couple, what did they have? Oh, there was pictures of the older couple. The man was actually cheating on the wife. And the girl that was in the picture with the old man was actually Margot. And the old lady figured out that, I guess the husband was messing around with Margot. Margot didn't get any tortillas because they didn't know she was coming. The actor got tortillas with one of his movies that bombed. It was a Calling Dr. Sunshine. It was supposed to be a movie he was in that was just a terrible movie. And he didn't think nothing of it. He thought they were just busting his balls. And the critic on her tortillas was a bunch of restaurants that she reviewed, and they got closed down. So plot thickens a little bit now. You can kind of tell the chef is messing with these people, and they're starting to wonder why. Next course comes along. It's called the mess. The mess. And now, the reason I'm going to talk about it is this probably the most powerful, if you're a chef, this is probably the most powerful scene, one of the most powerful scenes in the movie. Sous Chef Jeremy comes out, and his dish was called the mess. And chef grills him and asks him if he likes his life, if he really wants the chef life, and he wants all the fame and glory and all the work that goes with it. And, giving up, sacrificing everything just to get the fame and the prestige that Chef Slowik had. And he said, no. They presented a dish. Jeremy blows his head off. That was part of the menu. Well, now everybody's losing their minds. Everybody's losing their minds now. They thought it was the critics that, oh, no, this is what he does. This is theater. It's part of the show. And then they got the food that was supposed to be the mess. I don't remember exactly what the food was, but I'm pretty sure if something like that happened in real life, I wouldn't have an appetite to eat it. The reason that is so powerful is being a chef and in food service, especially if you do it your entire life, takes away everything. It takes away your money. It takes away your life, your friends, your time, divorce, all that stuff. Time away from your kids. Because if you're running a restaurant, you got to be there all the time. And it can be super stressful. And the life is not for everybody. There's times I wanted to pack it up and quit completely. I haven't quit completely. I have retired, but I still love to cook for people. I still love that feeling. But I've found a happy medium right now in my life where I can cook when I feel like it. I cook down at the American Legion here in Manor. I cook there once in a while. I'd like a little more. I'm actually thinking about going back to my old job. I put my hat in the ring. They need somebody. I might. I don't know. But that's nothing to do with the movie. But I just thought that scene was very, very powerful. So by now, everybody knows something ain't right. They pretty much all figured out that they're all going to die. And then the chef brings out the owner of the corporate owner of the restaurant, tied him up. They called him as some kind of an angel financier or something. I don't know, but this is the guy that keeps the restaurant open, and I guess he owns it. And Chef Stoic has to work for him. Well, they killed the guy right in front of everybody. I ain't going to tell you how. I'll leave you some surprises to it. That's when everybody definitely realized they were going to die. That's all there is to it. So, moving on. So now they know they're going to die. Some other stuff happens that wasn't super important. Now they're starting to realize that they all have sins, and this is why they're going to get killed by the ending. Let's just go through their sins, what they actually did, all the characters here. I'll try to make it short. If you're still around, hey, great, hit the like and share button down there. I could use the help. Let's start with Tyler. Tyler, it was an idiot. He was an idiot. So chef calls him out, makes him go back in the kitchen and say, oh, you know so much about it. You're a cook. You know all this stuff. You're a cook. Here, cook me something. Basically humiliated the hell out of him in the kitchen. And then the course that he made, and they put it on the screen. It was called Tyler's Bullshit. And it was some kind of lamb, and it was garbage. Now, you have to keep in mind, Tyler worshipped this chef. He worshipped him. And then after that, there was a conversation with him and Tyler. He wanted to know why he brought Miss Mills, because he had somebody else to come, and they weren't ready for it. Of course, now they know they're all going to die. And he said that he had to bring somebody because he couldn't come by himself. So he knew the whole time. He'd have been in contact with the chef the whole time and knew they were all going to die at the end. So he says that right in front of Margot. Margot socks him right in the head and tries to beat the shit out of him. It was great. It was great. And that's what starts the fact that everybody had a sin there that chef was going to cleanse, basically. So then that's whenever he takes Tyler back in the kitchen and makes him cook something. He says, that is really, really bad. And you can see Tyler almost starts crying because he worshipped that chef. Basically, the reason chef hated his guts, because being a foodie, it's like the little kid at a magic show sits in the front row. A magician will do a trick, and there's always a little kid. I know how you did that. There's a wire there, and then there's this and that and the other, spoiling the trick. That's what foodies do, and that's what this Tyler did, and it pissed chef off. So that's why he tricked him into coming there. And the funny thing is he told him he was going to die, and he still came. The rich couple, I told you about them, her catching the husband cheating with Margot. But that's not the only reason that they got killed. Chef's problem with the old guy and the rich couple was the fact that they had been there 11 times and didn't have any appreciation for the food. They treated it like a McDonald's drive-thru. They just come in there because they were rich. And like, oh, I can afford it. Spent their money just to spend their money. Chef even asked him if he could remember one dish that he had the last time he was there. Guy couldn't remember anything. I'll tell you what, if I spent $1,200 for a dinner, I'm going to remember what I ate. I'm going to remember exactly what I ate. I don't care if it's a year or two later. I'm going to remember. The last time my wife and I went out to a nice restaurant, our bill was about $125. And I tell you exactly what I ate. Well, you don't care, but I can tell you what we both ate that night. And it was delicious, by the way, and we appreciated it. So the chef didn't want to come out and kill us. But that's why he hated the rich couple, because they just very casually, no appreciation for the art, nothing. The chef was all about his art. The businessmen, well, they not only were they were ripping off the company, but they also were underlings of his boss. And let's face it, they were just jerks. They were just there to be frat boys, and I don't think he liked that very much. Now, the critic and her assistant, that was pretty much obvious. I mean, critics go around, and he basically, the chef basically said, she ruined people's careers, doesn't even care. Just, say whatever she wants. She can make or break someone. She abuses that power. She still doesn't appreciate the actual experience of eating food rather than sitting there nitpicking everything and wanting to write it down and report it to somebody. Kind of like what I'm doing right now with this movie, if you think about it. But I'm not a movie critic. I'm just a Gen X guy telling you what I think of this movie, and I'm picking it apart a little more than I normally do because, like I said, I'm a career chef. The assistant, he hated the assistant because the assistant was just as bad. The assistant was enabling the food critic just so he could make money. So anything she'd say, he'd agree with her. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Oh, yeah, that's a great idea. That kind of stuff. I hate people like that. I'd rather people, if I say something, I'd rather someone say, oh, my God, you're stupid, and tell me why, rather than kissing my butt all the time. The actor and the publicist was funny, though. Because at one point the actor stood up and asked basically why he's there. Because he couldn't figure out why he was there. He never met Chef. He did say they were friends, but that's not really enough reason to kill somebody, I don't think. He just wanted a name drop. I get it. The reason the chef hated the actor so much is he had a day off on a Sunday, and he hadn't had a day off in over a month, he said. And he went to see that movie we mentioned, Calling Dr. Sunshine. And he said the movie was so bad, he was pissed off because he wasted his entire day off just to go see that movie. So that's why he wanted him killed. I mean, the guy was out there, man. The guy was out there. I mean, I've seen some bad movies too, but I never wanted to go kill the actor. Oh, and then we get to Margot. Did she really have any sins? I don't know. It turns out Margot's real name was Erin, and she was a hooker, I'm sorry, I don't know if we're allowed to say hooker on it anymore. Hooker. She was a prostitute that Tyler hired because he couldn't get a date because he's a dick. She wasn't supposed to be there. Tyler's girlfriend was. She dumped him, so he called up the prostitute. She didn't know anything about why she was supposed to be there. And the chef even pulled her aside and said, you don't belong here, and offered her to come back in the kitchen and work with the givers or the takers, I think he said. And she was going through that quandary. But that was her only sin. She just really shouldn't have even been there, like they said. And if you really want to really call that a sin. So now all the sins are exposed, and people realize they're going to die. There was a thing in there where Margot made it to a radio, and then they had a fake Coast Guard guy come in, and they thought they were all rescued. Turned out he was just messing with them. Like I said, it's there. It was interesting. So last course comes up before the dessert, and Margot wants to get out of there, and the chef wasn't going to let her. Okay, so at this point we talked about all the characters that talked about their sins, and now they know they're going to die. They all know they're going to die. And the only thing left is the ending, and that's what I really want to talk about, because I thought it was brilliant. Margot had left to go get a barrel for the dessert course. And while she was getting this barrel, Elsa came after her and flipped out, and they ended up fighting, and she killed Elsa. She made it into Chef's quarters, house, whatever you want to call it, and she saw all his memories and stuff on pictures on a wall. One of the pictures was a young Chef Stoic employee of the month holding a hamburger. He was really young, just holding a hamburger, big grin on his face, which he hadn't smiled during the entire movie. She gets back with the barrel and and she's sitting. I take the barrel, and she's sitting with she's sitting at the table, and she decides, she goes up and she claps her hands. Everybody's quiet and they're all looking, because everybody's broken at this time. They're just looking. They're just like, what? She says to the chef, she says, I don't like my food. Chef comes out, what? She says, I don't like my food. I'm still hungry. So chef walks, well, what's wrong with it? She says, you haven't served me anything. You haven't served anything with love, ... You don't cook with love. I mean, it's a whole soliloquy, which was just brilliant. So chef says, well, what would you like? And she says, I would like a cheeseburger. Not no fancy, pretentious crap, just a good old-fashioned cheeseburger. Chef says to her, I will make you a cheeseburger, just like the first one you ever had when it's all your parents could afford, something like that. So he goes back, and you see him making this cheeseburger. And now remember the Employee of the Month picture where he was holding a spatula with a hamburger on it. So he's making his cheeseburger. It was a double cheeseburger. And you see him in the movie, you can even tell he's putting a lot of love into this sandwich. Now, a real chef understands what that is. You should always cook with love. I know it sounds stupid, but you have to. People say, oh, that's just a saying. No, it's not a saying. It's not a saying. I made a whole batch of Big Ziti last night for the Legion. And I could have just opened up a can, threw it together. No. I put a lot of love into it. You know what? They loved it. That's the feeling us chefs get from our food. So what you're supposed to get from our food, making the people happy. So he makes this cheeseburger. I'll tell you what, it did look pretty good. He brings it out, he gives it to Margot, and she bites into it, and she sits there and basically has a food orgasm, which made the chef happy. And she's like, I don't think I can finish this. Would it be okay if I got it to go? Chef looked at her, put it in a container, gave her a gift bag, and let her go. Because she reminded him of how much it really meant to him to cook, how much he used to love it, which he hadn't felt that way in forever. So she leaves, and everybody else just sitting there. They know they're dead. She leaves, just gets in a boat, goes away. They do the last course, which was s'mores. And I'm assuming you've seen the movie if you're still listening to me. The s'mores, they set them on fire and blew them up. She's sitting on the boat, takes a menu out, takes the cheeseburger out of the package, sits there and eats it, takes the menu, uses it as a napkin, just sits there, and that's the end of the movie. I just think it was super powerful. This guy basically went nuts because of the people that treated him badly and what he's seen going on over the years about nitpicky people. And he just went ballistic. He lost his mind, and I love it. I love it. Because I wonder, could that happen in real life? Anytime I watch a movie, a drama movie, or, a movie that possibly, like I'll see space movies. I don't think that can really happen in real life. But a movie that might be believable, that could really happen. I mean, they made everything believable, suspension of belief. I love what they did with the characters. I think the characters are very well written and very well acted. Like I said, I'm not going to climb up its butt and say, well, this is inaccurate and it should be this way, or this guy had the wrong shoes on for that era, because that's what a lot of people do. I look at a movie and I think, do I like that movie, or do I not like that movie? This movie, obviously, I like this movie. I'm not going to go hurt nobody or nothing like that, but I can understand why the chef would feel that way, because I've done a video before about food service industry. It's rough, and it takes a rare breed to be able to succeed in it. Like I said, I've been cooking for 40 years this year. Not the best. I'm damn good. I'm not the best. I'm not and I don't talk about Gordon Ramsay and people like that. They're not real chefs to me. Those are entertainers. Maybe at one point they were a real chef before they started on TV shows, because all that stuff you see on their shows is all fake. All of it. So I think I've rambled on enough about this movie. Leave your comments down there if you're still sticking around. It was just a movie I saw. Someone told me to watch it before, and I put it off, and I finally watched it. I'm like, why didn't I watch this sooner? It was almost therapeutic for me. Because if whoever wrote that story, I know how they felt. I'd like to know how they got inspired to write that story, because I just thought it was amazing. I love the characters. I don't have much bad to say about it at all. I wanted to punch Tyler in the face as soon as I saw him. I really did. So, yeah. Well, thanks for tuning in, man and girls. We'll see what I can come up with next. I got a few things on the drawing board. I want to do a thing about Vincent Price coming up, because Vincent Price was one of my favorite actors growing up. And I thought I'd throw together something little about Vincent Price. Let me in the comments, too, if you like Vincent Price, if you're too young for it. Let me know. Either way, thanks for sticking around this long. Bye.
It's just Bruce, he don't bite. Hello.